This counting system is based on eighth notes and eighth rests. Each eighth note is called ta, and each eighth rest is called When you put ta and together, you get tam, so we call this system tam counting. Using eighth notes and rests as the basis for tam counting builds in thinking in eighth note subdivisions to the name of every note. Because tam counting is set up this way, we teach our beginners to count eighth notes first, even though they don't see many eighth notes in their music at first. Counting this way is a very simple concept for students to grasp. In a couple of minutes, you can teach anyone to count an exercise like this. Since each eighth note is ta, and each eighth rest is counting this passage simply becomes ta 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 ta. Not only is this an easier counting method for students, it also provides two other benefits. Starting every note with a T helps make good articulation more automatic. And giving notes and rest different sounds also helps teachers assess student understanding. Counting in the example on the screen in a traditional way, every measure would be counted as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, even though they are all different. Unlike a traditional 1 and 2 and counting method, tamming stays consistent regardless of meter or the placement of notes within a measure. Using tam counting, either of the two examples on the screen would be counted as ta 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 since both of them sound the same as far as most young musicians are concerned. After students can successfully tam examples like the ones you've just seen, I introduce them to the finger metronome. This is an easy concept for them as well. They extend their index fingers, hold one finger in front of them, and tap the beat with their other finger. Make sure that they are using large motions from their elbow. This is essentially just having them tap their foot, but it has several advantages to foot tapping. The finger gnome is much easier to see than students tapping their foot, so we can more easily assess whether students are understanding how rhythms relate to pulse. Students can also see this more easily, so struggling students can use others as scaffolding. And since this is in essence a conducting gesture, when students are introduced to conducting, they will have conducted a downbeat hundreds of times, making learning to follow a conductor much more intuitive. For any note longer than an eighth note, start the note with a T representing tonguing the note and add an ah for each eighth note subdivision. For example, since a quarter note is 2 eighth notes, its tam counting is ta-ah. Once students learn that any quarter note is counted ta-ah, they subdivide it every time they see it. Whether or not they understand the theory behind this, the system remains easy to understand and builds in the benefits of subdividing. With that basic concept in place, we would count the example on the screen like this. Ta 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 ta. In tamming, rests work on the same principle. Say one for every eighth note subdivision within a rest. Here is how this example sounds. Ta 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 Using the same concept of T plus the number of subdivisions per note, we can apply tam counting to dotted notes, syncopations, and ties very easily. The example on the screen sounds like this. Ta 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 ta. Here are some rhythms that many students struggle to count. Even though a student wouldn't see any rhythms like this in their band music in their first year of playing, A student who is proficient in tamming would have the tools to figure out how to count this example. It sounds like this. Ta 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 ta. In summary, Tam counting is easy for students to understand, it teaches them to subdivide, and it makes it easier to assess their understanding. For more resources to help your students play better, check out buildbetterbands.com.